Jim was born 70 years ago. Fact.
He's brilliant.
He has no friends. Longer than me.
I would like to say that you are amazing, and it is so wonderful to see you celebrated in the way that you deserve. Happy birthday. Mwah.
Happy birthday, Jim.
Happy birthday, Jimmy! Happy birthday!
Hello, everyone.
My little girl.
Thank you, everyone, for being here, except for Keith. We are gathered here tonight to celebrate my dad, James Miller Elsaesser. Jim! And his 70 years of life as a father, brother, friend, social worker, and poet.
You know, Lenny
I picked up that.
did you? Yep. There's all those trips. You didn't know him, but you committed suicide.
Yeah, I got a few memories there. I was in a couple of them.
Yeah.
No, I'm just checking them out. There's Keith and Jim when they're little convicts.
Little convicts, yeah.
They were terrible. A good terrible.
So what would you like to say to Jim?
Well, he's my favorite brother.
Okay.
No, he's a great brother.
Great,
Very good.
great.
But now some of these, no, that's the old farm.
Yeah,
That's where we grew up.
I bet. Yeah. What's your name?
Rick.
Rick, hi.
Yep, that's where we grew up.
Yeah.
Those silos there, I was the silo loader forking out the
Oh,
silos.
jeez.
Yep. Yep, there's some show cows here. We showed cows. That's after a real good show we had in '63.
This one here?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, let me get in
We
there.
did real well.
Prize cows.
We did well, yeah. There's Jim right there.
Oh, with the glasses.
That's him. That's with his glasses.
All right, there he is. Oh,
Keith, come on and stand.
look at that noble,
Grade school prisoners here.
noble stands.
I want to say you're a great guy. I'm very proud to be your friend, and I wish you the best of luck and good health and everything else that's positive for the rest of your life. And hopefully it's a long, long time.
Happy birthday, Jim. Thank you for all you do.
That's it. Okay. A woman, a few words, but that's great. All right. And there's Jessica. She never stops. She's just on and on. Okay, Wamara, what would you like to say to Jim?
I want to say that Jim is an absolutely amazing poet, and he has made a great contribution to the work he's doing.
All right.
The poetry by the students is amazing.
Happy birthday! It's been like great knowing you over the years, seeing your progression from, electrician to poet, and we miss your classes at the UU. Hint, hint.
I wish you well on your years going forward, health and prosperity and love.
Jim, I've known you for a really long time. Your poetry is so awesome. You are the most inspirational poet I know personally. And I've read other poets that I think their poetry is awesome, but Jim, you've been a lot to me over the years, and thank you, thank you, thank you.
And the first
These guys are going to be plastered by the time we're done.
John Fox is author of Poetic Medicine, The Healing Art of Poem Making and Finding What You Didn't Lose, Expressing Your Truth and Creativity Through Poem Making. John is president of the Institute for Poetic Medicine, a nonprofit founded in 2005. IPM is dedicated to serving marginalized people in our country. IPM trains people to do this work, such as Jim Elsaesser, who is such a superb practitioner of poetic medicine.
So this is in celebration of Jim. Jim, there is a way you relate to the world at large, at least as I am seeing the world, and to people in your world that gives this tangible, felt sense of safety. Buoying that safety is a subtle, yet unmistakable, nonverbal communication touched with joy that says, without saying it, I treasure your person. You. You are a treasure. That joy isn't obvious. I almost use the word tinged with, rather than touched. There is a slight Buddha-like smile that one can sense that colors your presence. And this can be seen and felt when one slows down. I admire and am inspired by your commitment to service, to serving others, with this gift you make of poetry as healer. I particularly admire that you work so closely with clinicians in different settings. Proslin, Terry, Paige, Delia. Introducing them to the possibilities, potentials, and perfectly sensible, creative ways to support and add value to their therapeutic work. This speaks to your flexibilities, your skillful ability to communicate, and your plain openness. I imagine that those, quote, clinicians, unquote, who have a creative and poetic dimension to their life, just like the clients you are all trying to reach, they feel seen and heard when their clinical training most likely tried to wring this out of them, the creative and poetic. This is a part of this talk that gets personal. It is good to have such a trustworthy male friend who cares for me and for whom I care for. I appreciate knowing that the challenges you face growing up. Appreciate knowing about the dairy farm. Your escape into the woods. The connection to creatures. I delight to knowing the ways that poetry took root for you. The men's gatherings with Robert Bly, Block Island, and you driving Naomi Shihab Nye such a long way. These among many other connections, including your falling in love with poetry in community college. You have listened to me and know some of my life story. On a still more very personal reflection, when your beloved daughter, Lindsay, died suddenly and tragically, a terrible shot in the dark, that being such a grievous loss for you, for Jessica, for those individuals close to Lindsay, and for your family. You made a place that I could, as a friend, express solace in such an impossible loss. You even traveled out west to be near the Pacific Ocean at Big Sur. And we made that. And we made that journey together. Words don't fit well here. I hope there is a silent understanding. I've watched you open your heart more, deepen your service, You have kept friends. We know how grief can overrun us, at times deform us. You have held grief in your hands. I am sorry. The words, I'm still sorry, because a little time has passed, the word still doesn't make any sense. I am sorry. I can't help but think of these lines by Naomi Shihab. Before you know kindness as the deepest thing inside, you must know sorrow as the other deepest thing. You must wake up with sorrow. You must speak it till your voice catches the thread of all sorrows. And you see the size of the cloth. And you see the size of the cloth. Then it is only kindness that makes sense anymore. Only kindness that ties your shoes. Only kindness that ties your shoes and sends you out into the day to mail letters and purchase bread. Naomi refers to feeling sorrow and discovering kindness. In my message to you, I began by saying you communicate the subtle joy that buoys up safety. I'm going to take a leap here and say that that slight smile is the same as tying your shoes and purchasing bread. You give people the ingredients for baking the homemade bread of their own poetry. Maybe you, line by line, you help a person tie their own shoes. They can lean down like a person leans over their writing pad and lace their poem shoes on their sacred feet. Then they can sit up, look out at the world and breathe. And then, when the time is right, stand up, walk into their world. Walk into their world in their own unique way. That is, they stand up and speak out loud their newly laced poem. This is what makes sense. I'm grateful that in your life and the way you live it, you, rather than choosing indifference and cruelty, you thoughtfully choose kindness. You know this choosing kindness is a choice, and you make it each day. I have used wonderful words to honor your practice as practitioner of poetic medicine. As I speak, I hope people appreciate this in you. That said, it is very important to illuminate this. You are alive on so many different levels and so many different dimensions. You're about to get called on here. So many different dimensions. Jim as father, Jim as brother, Jim as poet, Jim as friend, Jim as retired master electrician.
Sort of. Sort of master.
There must be more Jim ads. So I invited you here now to shout out how they see you. What have you learned about this fellow, Elsaesser? Dear friends, gathered here, your prompt words are Jim as. Jim as
Teacher.
Mentor. Inspiration.
Jim as
Hero.
what's that?
Hero.
Gentleman.
Muse.
Hero.
Hero.
Friend.
Friend.
A lot of fun.
Trustworthy.
Jim is fun. A lot of fun.
Loving brother-in-law.
Loving brother-in-law. Jim is
Spiritualist.
Jim is mischievous scoundrel. How about the
Trouble.
I mean, you know, we gotta have a little shadow here.
Scoundrel sounds right.
Partner in crime.
So here I am, and I want you to absorb this in your grand celebration at the august age of 70. I offer this poem to you. Too low. The work of the poet healer, the work of the poet healer. So this is a poem I wrote. The work of the poet healer is to go down into the deep well of breath. Go down to that still point where the breath rests upon the place wet with life, where a mustard seed of feeling bursts apart, opens up and becomes everything that is. The work of the poet healer is to visit people others ignore. The grief-stricken, and those waiting at the light. Children learning words for the first time. The cleaning lady with old-fashioned nylons clinging tight below her knees. Yes, especially children's laughter when making new sounds. How much gets noticed when the poet healer takes the time to see, remembering a child's delight, considering how you also knew her very sad eyes. The work of the poet healer is to listen. Listen like a plumb line. Listen like a fulcrum. Listen like a hinge. And I'm so glad to see those pictures of you remaking your home. Plumb line, fulcrum, hinge. Good. To build a real home, out of nothing, to roll the boulder away from the tomb entrance, to open out into something else coming alive. You and I know this isn't hyperbole, that when people write in this healing way, there are times when the stone is rolled away from the tomb entrance and someone new can emerge. I mean, there can be a kind of resurrection in the people that we work with. I do not mean the great resurrection of Jesus. I am welcoming a resurrection more modest, yet just as real, as much a miracle that it happens at all because the people we meet have thought of themselves as being dead. Here's a poem that rose up from your work in the Rise Up work with women who are survivors of domestic abuse. It is written by M. Hart M. And this poem uses the word you many times, but it's capitalized, Y-O-U. Think of a trumpet sound or a bell, a large bell. You. So this is written by a woman who's been through a lot. There will come a time when you becomes you again. Maybe even a better version of you. A stronger you. A you with more self-confidence. A you who doesn't need anyone else to fulfill. You as you fulfill yourself. A you whose pieces are brought back together. A you who finds pleasure again in the little things as well as the big. A you who stands tall despite having the weight of the world on your shoulders. A you who feels free again, not shackled. Someone's writing this. A you who loves yourself. For you. M. Hart M. Rise Up Poetry. What amazing lines. A you who stands tall despite having the weight of the world on your shoulders. A you who feels free again, not shackled. A you who loves yourself. For you. Jesus had the weight of the world on his shoulder. Jesus was shackled and he broke free. Jesus' main message is that of love. This poem, You, mirrors that. Please allow me to back this comparison up with a link. I hope you'll bear with me. Upon reflection, I say the Institute for Poetic Medicine and Jim Elsaesser is a significant part of IPM. We are dedicated to meeting what is in the scripture, Matthew 25:38. When did we see the stranger and invite him or her in? We provided funding for 13 years for Myrna Hecht, a healer poet like Jim, serving immigrant and refugee youth. Some translations of the Bible replace stranger with the word immigrant. We are not clothing the naked, but the sense that we are dedicated to bringing poetry to people at the margins is very true. We have funded and support work for people in prison, people with Parkinson's, people with mental health diagnoses. I'm aware of Jesus saying in that verse of Matthew, "Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as you have done this unto one of the least of my brethren, you have done it to me. You have done it unto me." What I believe am experience with you, Jim, is you bearing witness to her in this way. This is a poem I wrote about listening. I appreciate you listening so carefully for a long time. Sometimes you can see when what you needed to say, makes its way into a place in another person where nothing is disturbed. Nothing is disturbed. A strong wind might come up around you both. The smell of a storm tug hard at the edge of your thought. But still, your friend's eyes hold fast, like a small shelter in the middle of nowhere, and not too far from home. Your friend's eyes hold fast, like a small shelter in the middle of nowhere, and not too far from home. Here's another way of seeing. Your sacred bearing of witness of seeing M, heart M, seeing that you in her, receiving that you, brings these lines by Rilke to my heart. That's the poet Rainier Maria Rilke. He says, "I know nothing has ever been real without my beholding it. Nothing has ever been real without my beholding it. All becoming has needed me. My looking ripens things. My looking ripens things. And they come toward me to meet and be met. M, heart M, to become her you, needed you and those in her circle. You beheld her. You, looking, helped ripen her. This, I believe, is how flourishing works for all of us. We must see, we must behold one another. There is so much of who you are and what you do in this." Okay, I'm nearing my close. I'm going to close this special acknowledgement that you deserve my respect in a very particular and specific way. What can I say about Rock Around the Clock with Bill Haley and his Comets? Landing in second place on the Billboard chart. What can I tell you about the great Albert Einstein? Oh, and what happened with Allen Ginsberg at 6th Gallery in San Francisco on October 7th? Oh, all of that occurred in the truly great year of 1955. You remember that, don't you? Bill Haley not only rocked around the clock, and that same year he and those comets shook, rattled, and rolled. Einstein, who revealed universal secrets, he of the wild hair, went on to and into a bigger, further adventure. Allen Ginsberg, sitting on that bar stool, spoke his life-shaking poem, "Howl!" into that mid-1950s world. I think it is true to say that rock and roll Universal Secrets, and a liberating, gorgeous poem, courageous poem, followed us into our lives and had a significant effect, even if it took a little while. Here is an editorial side. Here's an editorial side. This feels like a time when some kind of howl is needed again. 1955. 1955. Superb year. I know that because, like you, I was born in 1955. You in late February, me in late August. You and I chose this excellent year, 1955, to launch our lives. And it seems that you and I are brothers from different mothers. So the best to you, Jim.
Yeah.
My whole life I put up with Jim.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm going to tell you how I really feel. This is written kind of like a poem, but nothing rhymes. Yeah. So it's more of prose or something like that. I don't know what they're. Okay. You listening, Jim?
Sort of.
All right. You'll see how good I am at poetry once I start here.
You're good, Paula Keith.
Jim was born 70 years ago. Fact.
You're the man. He's brilliant.
He has no friends. Longer than me. Is that true?
That's very true.
2 shithead kids. Born 3 months apart.
Yeah.
Growing up next door to each other for 18 years of our lives.
Yeah.
Is that true?
That's true.
That's 52 years since then that we really weren't together much except for the last several years or whatever. I don't know. I didn't do the math on that. With many a story to reminisce over, and we sure do. And not to overlook, his brother Rick is a culprit in many of these stories.
He was.
Hey, does anybody smell smoke? You might find out about that later. Who knew what the next 52 years would bring? Yet here we are, 70 years later, and friends still. I'm only saying that because there's a lot of people that like you.
Is that projection or
Just let them think that we still still friends, just older and still shitheads. Pretty special, I would say.
Indeed.
I'm a lucky guy to have a friend like Jim. That's where I get emotional.
Yeah.
I thank Jim for being my friend, and I thank God for Jim. I mean,
Whoa.
Here, here. This is my fault. No, I'm not bringing it twice.
I want to tell you the kind of guy this guy is. I won't use the word asshole because I think that's crude. But Keith's mom was like my mom, my second mom, and my dad was like his dad. My mom was a couple 100 feet apart. Every time I walk over, he's great. You're happy to be there. How's your mom? How's everything? Good. Anyway, Keith's mom passed a few years ago, right?
Yeah.
We were down there and we went to a church where she attended. Very devout, dedicated woman, very spiritual. And we're in the church setting up the pictures before anybody was there. And the funeral directors open the doors, they wheel the casket in on the gurney, and I hear Keith say, "That's not the casket I ordered." He's laughing. He's laughing as he says it. And the funeral director slumps on the casket and says, "Don't do that to me."
Who does that to their mother?
That was awesome.
Jim Elsaesser has worked as an English teacher, a plumber, and was an electrician for most of his working life. He has facilitated healing poetry workshops in his community in a variety of settings. He currently facilitates weekly healing poetry groups at Domestic Abuse and Sexual Assault Intervention Services, DAISY, Bridgeway Behavioral Health Services, and Norwest CAP. He has served as an instructor of GED English and has led online ESL classes and facilitated poetry workshops for School of Leadership Afghanistan, SOLA, since 2013. He has served as community outreach specialist at DAISY Newton, New Jersey, and he currently serves as group facilitator for the DECIDE program at DAISY, an abuser intervention program for men who have caused harm in their relationships. He is a certified peer recovery specialist and holds a certification as a practitioner of poetic medicine from the Institute for Poetic Medicine. And that's my dad.
Wonderful tribute. Thank you everybody for being here. It's deeply touching, and you guys are going to absolutely love this. Poetry. This thing about poetry, I think it was in college when I really became fascinated with poetry, like obsessed with it, I would say. And I had to understand and I had to learn. And I had books that were just filled with, in the margins, with trying to figure this stuff out. And it took me a long time to realize that what I was learning in college wasn't the only thing with some of these great poets that I was so grateful to learn about and read. Not only am I quite an extraordinary poet, I'm also an exceptional artist, and here's one of my here's the neurobiology part of this. Here's the brain, and what can the clinicians or the psychologists tell me what the main function of the brain is?
There's thoughts in there somewhere.
There's thoughts in there, okay.
If you're lucky.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Feeling.
Feeling.
Creation.
Creativity.
Imagination.
Imagination.
Perception.
Perception, okay.
Numbers.
Numbers. Letters. The fundamental use of this thing, the fundamental purpose of this thing is to keep us alive, to keep us safe, right? So we fill our heads with all this stuff. Good, bad, right, wrong, I want, I don't want, right, wrong. I am this, I am that. And pretty much, not all the time, but a large period of the time, this thing's full of shit. Anybody relate to this? But poetry comes from here. And one of the things I was going to write was, about 800 years ago, a guy in the Middle East named Rumi said that poetry is the work of opening the heart. And really that's what the process of this is. And the head just gets in the way and messes it up. Okay? So that's my speech. We're done. So what the heck? You want to do the sales pitch now, or you want to wait till later?
No, go with good with dessert.
Let's go over. Keith, could you help me out? Okay, here you go. Hold up the books. I told you which one. It's been this way for 68 and a half years.
How much money is paid for doing this?
You're getting paid a lot. So these books are for sale. This is poetry groups we work with. This is under-resourced folks.
This is one.
Survivors.
So everybody can see.
Survivors there. This is a DAISY book. This is Survivors Domestic Sexual Violence.
How am I doing?
You're doing great. And you even use 2 hands. Keep
The poem "You" is in one of those.
Yes, right. And this is Bridgeway for developmental, or this is behavioral services. And there's some amazing poets, amazing groups, amazing times, and it's a joy to be able to.
Published by Jim Elsaesser.
Published by Jim Elsaesser.
Yeah.
So there's a poll there, donation if you would, or there's a Venmo. There's a couple books that I've written that they're free, except for Keith. I'm free for that. And there's John Fox has 2 books, which are amazing books, Poetic Medicine and Finding What You Didn't Lose. Please look on Amazon, online you can get them. They're just beautiful books.
You really wrote these?
That's what I'm told.
Okay, Keith, now you get the picture I talked about?
You know when,
The picture?
before you told me to
Picture.
stand next to you, when I brought this out, and then you told me to.
Now we're gonna start.
Is he like
He was,
dancing monkey or something?
Keith got in a lot of trouble. There were, I can tell you many, many.
Yeah, big tough guy.
Oh,
Construction
yeah.
man, aren't you?
Yeah, there you go.
And you should wear it.
Okay.
That's what you look like most of your life.
So, I was looking at these pictures and, yeah, this brings back memories.
What is that picture?
Looking at these pictures and I was sharing with a couple folks, I had a dream about this picture probably 10 or 15 years ago. And this is me. It must have been like first day of school or something because I had nice clothes on and I'm standing there. But in my dream, I'm the grown-up Jim, and I walk up to the 5-year-old boy, Jim, and 5-year-old Jim looks up at 60-year-old Jim and says 3 words. Where'd you go?
Whoa.
And I think for me, the process of poetry and the exploration and not knowing is finding out who that little kid is. And all the other bullshit just kind of falls away. So creativity, fun, play, community, it's beautiful stuff. So I got a bunch of poems, and I read them. Quite a few of these are about my family growing up. Just be warned. They're not all happy. My life isn't happy, right? But I think one of the things I wrote was that in spite of the sorrow and the grief and the frustration and the loneliness, we all can feel that this life is still worth celebrating. And it's something we can do together. So that's what this is about. Earliest memory. And there's a picture of a combine over there. And the combine in this story is at Range's combine. And that's what this is about. Earliest memory. I remember holding a burlap bag to my chin, riding on a red combine. The great roaring machine shuddering, wheeled like a riverboat on land down the fields of fall. My father shouted through the noise of engine and gnashing gears to the operator of that contraption, a square-faced man in a green cap who smiled and shouted back at Range. I held the bag to the metal chute catching the torrent of grain till the bag was full up, too much for me to lift. My father laughed and carried it away. You might think how young you must have been, though we don't recall many details of all our miracles through all our days, where we walk and live at once as young as sunlight, as old as the harvest and the grave. One.
I could have written better than that.
Brilliant.
I heard my mother's call on my 61st birthday. Yeah, if you guys got something to say, just shout.
It's good to know.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Want to talk about the time we got thrown eggs at the car and the guy chased us under the barn? Yeah, anyway, that's awesome. I returned my mother's call on my 61st birthday. And she, of course, can't believe her baby has grown so old. But here we are discussing the last frigid days of February, the great lake she lives near still frozen. We were both so ready for spring. As she, approaching her 93rd birthday, tells me a secret for the first time. Perhaps people are not who we think they are. Marriages can end. The last time I saw my father, he drove me to Ma Dow's house on Lake Apaco. I was 3. I remember things. Somehow, they stay with you. I asked my father for a dime. He hands me a nickel, and I cry, "That's not a dime." I knew the difference at 3, she laughs. A couple days later, Mother took Ellie and me and left him, and never went back. That was the 1920s. It was not done. But that's my last memory of him, standing on his knee. I asked him for a dime, and he was laughing. So they're not all bright chipper poems, right? But I call this like my metaphorical journal, like just a phone call, I hear something, and make it into a poem. You know? It's part journal, part legacy. So, you guys are getting quiet. I mean, what an amazing group we have here, really. I'm so grateful everybody's here. Sunday phone call. So this is a phone call too, with my dad. My father has forgotten much of who he is, but I remember more than I can tell you. I call him now, and he recognizes my voice, answers me by name, and I can hear beneath the frail sound of an old man speaking, his voice. He asks me how my horses are. I tell him I don't have any horses, Dad. He asks me how my horses are. I say, Dad, I don't have any. This evening, through the long shadows of sunset, I see him in his fields, in the wilderness of alfalfa. Hear him calling in the dark before dawn. Hear the laughter, hear the rage. That past of every life, the scars we wear, and the quiet dignity of having borne them, run deeply through his hands, his face, immediate and unforgettable. He asks me how my horses are. I answer, they're beautiful, Dad. You'll have to come and see them.
Yeah.
Okay, Rick, if you thought you're getting off. My brother's barn.
My brother's what?
My brother's barn for Rick. Cold in February, time in February. Sunlight has a way of finding us. Life does too. The other day in my brother's barn, he tosses down bales of hay from the mound. Now I'm waiting below. I yell up to him, "Hey Rick, when you're working in the barn, do you ever hear the old man's voice?" I ask and already know the answer. He kind of laughs. The old man, 14 years gone, cold in February. Time. My brother throwing down the bales, and our father's voice. Okay, this was a little different. This is your turn. But I took poetry workshops in New York City and in Philadelphia with a wonderful teacher named Renard Cohen, who was a tough, old Irishman. But we meet on Friday night and discuss poetry for a few hours and read, and probably 10 people in this apartment. And then Saturday we get together, Saturday morning, and we discuss poems and read poems, and it gets really intense after a while. You kind of get in a different place. And then around 4 o'clock you'd say, okay, go out in the city, you got 2 hours, find a place to eat and write. And everybody go out by yourselves, you're not going together. So I wrote this poem, it's like it was the first workshop I did with him there. And I got done with it, and I thought, this is shit. It's like, I'm embarrassed to go back and read this, so you guys get to hear it now. So it's called Flying the Words, and Flying the Words is an expression I heard from an Afghan student, a young woman named Frozan. And she said it's when somebody's speaking big words and they just kind of go over your head. Right? Flying the Words for Jessica. Driving east on 80, and New York City rises up over the horizon like some great god, spreading out its arms, saying, "Behold, here it is." And I think, Christ, where the hell am I going? It wasn't good driving in the city. At 111 4th Avenue, I'm standing on the 12th floor, looking down, and the city is a river of shadow and light falling away into something I cannot understand. I asked my father once if the fields we walked in were as big as Yankee Stadium. He said, "You can fit 5 Yankee Stadiums in this pasture." I was so proud. I am on the R train rocking into Canal Street. I have a pretty good idea of where I'm going. An Asian coddler coos to her mother in a language I cannot understand. No one here speaks the King's good English. Let's call it our American tongue. My buddies and I used to shoot ducks, or at least we tried. My buddies and I used to shoot ducks on the wing, saw them explode into little fireworks of feathers. In the evening, we turn on the CBS Evening News. Pale men with dark ties intoned new words: Da Nang, Hui, Tet, 323 American dead today, 594 NVA. We were always winning the war. I think of 14 million souls crossing these streets, filling windows and doorways. A little man with a stub for a pencil, tallying up all their names, the bricks and bones that fill out New York City. Last night, my daughter and I talked long into the night about her kitchen floor, about marriage, the complexities of underlayment and love. I am a father, a dad. I understand. All this is a second of life unfolding into a lifetime. The voices, the people we pass, the shadow and the light, the imagined and the evident. This morning I wake on a couch. Jess hands me her Metro card saying, "Now this costs $150, don't lose it." I am standing on the R train, leaving Brooklyn in the subway that will take me to Manhattan like it's my first day of school. And my daughter has put me on a bus for the first time, as I once did for her, watching her ride away. I am heading into New York City. I do not say a word. I am so happy.
What did Fran say?
He said, I don't know, he made a deal with those last lines, but that was pretty good. So speaking of hard hats, this was when I was working as an electrician at a pharmaceutical place down by Philly, and it was just it was a nasty place to work. But I worked with a guy, and this poem's about him. Yeah, so you get to hear some construction stuff.
Oh boy.
Oh boy, oh, you're happy about that. Blue. He was a strange enough fellow, smallish, dark, heavily medicated, and often as not way up or down. But we worked that February years ago in and out of the filthy manholes of Merck Pharmaceutical on a crew of a couple dozen guys pulling these huge 35,000 volt cables with tugging machines and the winches on trucks. I was teamed up with Bloom for a few weeks, and like I said, he had his quirks, but don't we all? And sometimes he could be so off color, so fucking funny. I would just laugh and laugh. And our foreman, Joe Maranka, I think pit bull with 4 gold front teeth, could take so much of Bloom, a personality thing. One morning in sleet and rain, Bloom's cracking a joke and Maranka just goes off on him. The rain dripping off his worn hard hat, fog and whatever else flying from his mouth, his face in Bloom. And Maranka's holding up his hand like this, screaming, "You are this fucking close, Bloom! You are this fucking close!" I don't think Bloom really gave a shit. He was kind of numb to that. You know what I mean? But I do know Maranka was screaming at Bloom on a Friday. And 2 Sundays later, his wife finds him face down dead in his garden. That's that, you know. Maybe a year or 2 from retiring, gone to seed with the eggplants, tomatoes, and beans he'd be tending in a few weeks. The announcement's made at work the next day, and Bloom and I walk down the road in our coveralls and rain gear. And I can hear those overboots we wear, those yellow rubber boots scraping slow down the road. Bloom saying quietly, "You're this fucking close, Bloom. You're this fucking close." Watering the garden in August. I love the garden. I'm not a very good gardener, but I love it. We didn't have much grow this year. It's a big disappointment. Watering the garden in August. Watering the garden in August. The bugs are hungry and at their work. I at mine. Who to thank but this blackberry bush for the 5 glistening berries I hold in one hand, and the sunset for the light that can lift us from our shame. The day that changes slowly into night. Let it be that way. Don't turn away from what we are given, or try to hold on, or even return. The air is sweet with the scent of tomato plants. If we're lucky enough, we can claim many kinds of love. This is one. It's that time of year. Everything comes a little slower. A long walk across the lawn toward the door. A single light on in the kitchen.
I almost want to ask you to read that again.
Again?
How's it feel, Jim?
Okay. Need a drink? How we holding up?
Great.
Good?
Still here.
Okay. Still here. Watering the garden in August. Watering the garden in August. The bugs are hungry and at their work. I at mine. Who to thank but this blackberry bush for the 5 glistening berries I hold in one hand, and the sunset for the light that can lift us from our shame, and the day that changes slowly into night. Let it be that way. Don't turn away from what we are given, or try to hold on, or even return. The air is sweet with the scent of tomato plants. If we're lucky enough, we can claim many kinds of love. This is one. It's that time of year. Everything comes a little slower. A long walk across the lawn toward the door. A single light on in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That was even better.
Maybe it'll be even better.
One more time.
This is that'll be encore.
Okay.
That's all the table.
This is a poem for it's a poem for my sister Diane, who passed January 10th of this year. And I want to take a moment to thank my sister Patty and my brother Rick and my sister-in-law Rita, who gave her.
Could they raise hands? Let them raise their hands.
Yeah.
Patty. Rick, come on, Rick. Get your ass out here, come on. And Rita.
Yeah,
Remodeled their home, busted their ass, moved everything out of her home. She's living alone 30 some hours away. Rita was with her like every day through the most god-awful times. And I'll never forget those times we shared and what you gave our family and what you gave Diane.
Thank you.
So I wrote this.
Love.
Yeah, big love, big love.
Okay.
Diane loved horses. It was her life. She's going to be buried by one of the horses.
Mm-hmm.
Her ashes will remain there. So I wrote this like 4 days before she passed. For Diane. So this is the sound of you. This is the sound of your breathing. This is the light in your eyes. This is you in the fields. This is you, vibrant in your laughter. This is you in your anger and in all your pain. This is you in your kindness and the love you gave to so many others. This is the love you gave, returning. This is a time of loss and another door. This is you walking out into the fields where there are no words. Okay, here's a 3-line poem.
Hooray.
That kind of life. Life brings us moments beyond understanding, but not beyond love.
Ah.
Wait, read it again.
I'm not going to do that. So this is a poem called Hummingbird, and I've read this a couple times, different places. A beautiful art installation that Jessica and other folks put together for Lindsay in Brooklyn last year. Donnie, I'm sorry. It is beautiful. All of Lindsay's photographs. But when Lindsay was like 7 or 8 years old, She was collecting Beanie Babies. You guys heard this story? She was collecting Beanie Babies at Burger King. Right? So we had to go get the Red Bull because that was the next one.
yeah.
And she didn't have that one. So we go to Burger King. They don't have it, so she gets one she already had. She's very disappointed. And we're driving back through East Stroudsburg along Crystal Street. Just a few minutes from home. And I come to a stop. I'm coming to a stop sign. And she's like, Dad, stop! You gotta stop! You gotta turn around and go back. I was like, what are you doing? And she's like in the back seat. She goes, turn around, hurry up. So I stop, and here on a window ledge about 8 feet high.
Wow.
Is this? And she saw it. And that's the one she wanted.
She saw it.
Wow.
Photographer's eye, right? Talk about that. So the second part of the story is after Lynn's passed, we have our ashes in a container, whatever you call it. And in my house, some of the windows don't have screens, but I have a little shrine. We have a little shrine. And don't you start crying. And then this guy was on top of the urn.
Okay.
And over the course of a couple of days, 3 times a hummingbird flew into the room, turned around like directly in front of her ashes, and took off.
Second story.
Second story. Second story, yeah. Yeah, no, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is a visitation from it. But then it's like, they like the red. But she's the one who found it to put it there.
Don't discount it.
Just saying. So this poem is titled Hummingbird.
You're both in.
Both in. Hummingbird for Lindsay. There's a fire inside me, a small one, but enough to move the blood, and light enough each night to see. All this comes a disappearing morning, love in the shape of memory, and the day as it is, nothing more. But still, love as an offering brings another fire. Where are all the doors that you were meant to open? Where is your light, if not here with us now? It's enough to know one memory now, and the sound of your laughter, the harmony of birds, and the highway song, and all we call living. I keep a window open near you, in a place we may see you still. You are the hummingbird in flight that takes my breath away, delights me, and somehow keeps returning. I don't believe in like writing Hallmark cards. Good. Life is as it is, right? They have a time and place for that, nothing wrong with that. No bow ties on that. Children whose hands grow into wings, who want to grow up to be, who cling to the legs of fragile gods, who worship in the temples of dogs' ears, who whisper with the voices of waves, who rise from nests like birds, who swim out as fish in unseen streams, who slip the nets of their little hands, who belong alone to light, who dance with their shadows, who bring us small stones, who hold us in their sleep, who lead us into the day. Now, a couple of my fans, I'm being facetious, insisted I include this poem.
Sorry.
And it has the favorite title of all my poems, and there's a stack of them there just for the hell of it, I brought them. But this, I think, is my favorite title. Smoking Pot on the Stony Shore of Lake Champlain, or How I Came to See Satellites for the First Time. I don't condone that kind of stuff. I graduated high school. Yeah, here it is. Now this one's all true. So you can't give me shit about it not being true like you always do. Smoking, okay, you already know the title. After the beautiful April morning when my father spent cursing the stranger who was his son, and And after the day, I heard him rail again and again at my mother. And after my sister retired, nurse turned drill instructor shouted, "Enough!" My sister was a registered nurse at Hunterton Developmental Center, severely, profoundly involved in people. She retired and took care of my dad for 8 years till the day he died. And took care of my mom. It was Diane. And after my sister Diane retired, nurse turned drill instructor shouted, "Enough!" And after he sat at the dinner table looking at the piece of pineapple in his hand, and after he asked me my name again and again, and after he nodded off on his plastic-lined recliner, and after I turned off the way too loud TV, and after my mother and sister led him slowly to his bed, and after he'd fallen asleep, and mercifully the little house was silent, I said to myself, "What the hell?" and walked to the stony, starlit shores of Lake Champlain to do something I had not done in years. This is how it goes. A little spark, a little fire, drag 1, drag 2, drag 3, and I am smiling, suddenly quite serene, thinking, this is good. This is really good. And after I look up to the light that falls from the stars to us, from where we might call the dark night of eternity, and see little sparkling gems, glittering satellites streak across the heaven, something I'd never seen before. I had to look a couple times before I really seen it, but I did. And after I fell asleep that night, there came a violent pounding on the wall beside my head, the old man's fist punching the knotty pine wall from the bed where he lay. And after my mother asked, begged, pleaded, insisted he stop, he finally did. And after she asked him why he was beating his fist against the wall at 2 o'clock in the morning, I heard his voice through the dark eternity of the stars say, quite clearly, because I need to know I'm still here. And after the night of satellites and stars and smoke, the laughter and the rage and the unspoken joy of being alive, and after all the years that separate us from that peculiar silence that partitions the living and the dead, I beat my fist on this wall. And if you ask me why, I will tell you. To honor the voice of my family, to honor the voice of my mother, to honor the voice of my father.
Oh, yeah.
Three-line poem. I don't know what this means, but I gotta make it. I split these days like an old man with an axe. It is stone. That's it.
That's all you got?
That's it.
Was that fun to write? Was that fun to write?
Yeah, it's fun. It was weird. You know, it's like, yeah, I split it up. It's like time, you know, whatever. Well, we were going to play this to music, but we couldn't do that tonight. That's okay. And I was going to skip it, but my fan club insisted. Sorry, guys. You got to go to the bathroom or something.
Don't be sorry. It's okay.
Okay. I didn't know that. This goes to Clara Lewin, if you're familiar. I didn't know then, but of course no one could, not seeing all surrounding, enveloping life, not in the wet green mornings, in a field full with alfalfa, not where the killdeer mother ran, dragging a wing across the turned earth. Surely you must have been there. In the orange dust sunset, in the long fields tilted toward the blue, not knowing then that summer rises wave upon wave, wave into foam, and whispering with the crickets and the grasses, lost in the quiet songs of birds, telling all the news worth knowing. Even in the first cool breeze of morning, with the orange owlets pointed toward the long end of the field where we worked. Alice Chalmers, the same. Stone after stone onto the wagon, and we were thirsty for a drink of water, even then when we rested under the shade of trees. And warm in an August evening, and satisfied for all things passing or yet to come, life grew again through the long green season. And whispering sweet discourses of mothers in the night, the soft forgotten sound of wheat circling with the wind, the swallows rising, threading the sky at dusk, at once distant, circling, darting back, looking to you and me where we walk, and still singing in that voice that is the song of birds at the edge of blue and sunset, at the edge of the sky and starlight and evenings turning, in that evening of everything we'll ever know, that we'll ever love, that loves us, loves you and me, that lifts a moment in a fingertip to our busy, busy lips, as a mother might to her child. Life spoke to us in those days, in those mornings, in those evenings, in the voices of the fields, calling, quiet, whispering, soft and low, quiet now, listen, listen.
Yeah.
Poem for Lori.
What?
It's a poem for Lori. Poem for Lori. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm going down. 2 more poems. I'm done. I'm done. For Lori, you and I may yet return as children, run laughing down the path to find what we've forgotten.
All right.
Here he is.
Last poem, Leo. Our black dog that Lindsay named after when Titanic was a big film. Leonardo DiCaprio. Leo the Labrador. True story, this poem. Leo, I want to be like that. Like my old black dog bolting out the back door, down the brick steps, out into the wide green world, where he's barking, 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 half deaf, opaque eyes, but still chasing on rickety hips as best an old dog can, 2 squirrels who have long ascended the shag bark hickory. I want to be like that, doing to the end what one loves to do. Imagine an old man that happy.
I can't wait till your 80th birthday.
No, I want to sit.
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to say to Jim, thanks for, bringing Jesse into this world.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Whoa.
Jesse and I are getting married this year, and I'm just so happy to feel like you're gonna come into my life as family. And from the first day I met you, the first time I met Jim was in the hospital. Well, Lindsay was in the hospital, and Jesse and I also spent 6 months with Jim during the pandemic when I lost my job, and my life was really uncertain in that time. And he gave me a lot of grace, and he gave me a lot of patience and a lot of guidance, and I just want to say thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm so happy for both of you.
Yeah, we love you, Jim.
I will stand. Also, I'm a major crybaby and I'm always crying. But what I would like to say is that for a very long time I was told that a creative side of me had to be locked away because it wasn't good enough and it wasn't what the world wanted to see. And when I met you, Jesse, and when I met you, Jim, I learned that it doesn't matter what your age or what your stage in life. You get to choose when you unlock that part of who you are. And I'll never forget that. And so I celebrate you today and every day since I met you.
Thank you.
Oh.
Everybody start crying.
I have something to say.
Yeah.
All right, Sandy.
Come on, I don't have any wild stories about Jim like him and Keith. But Jim used to hang out with my brother. We met in kindergarten, the three of us.
Donnie.
Yeah.
And my brother Don, they used to hang out. So he was at our house a lot. And when my brother went in the service, Jim was still at our house a lot. He would come in, carry his little wine bottles, you know, and sit there in the chair with my mom and dad, which they never really talked very much today. But it was just always nice. And then as we got to know Jim, you know, like all over again. And, you know, with our families, and I think, Jess, you're a week younger than Kyle, so he just turned 40.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then just over the years, and it's like really nice because you and Keith have just connected again. And it's nice. I miss you're not coming to our house, you know, like you did. Jim would come to our house when he rented out his house. It was always nice. So I'm just so grateful to have you for a friend and all of us.
We go back a couple years.
Yep.
I gave her $50 to say that.
Okay.
That was cheap.
So, I can say something.
All right, there's great.
So I feel like we don't really go back that far. Only 24 years. Since 2001, from 2001 to 2008, I guess it was. We lived in the Poconos, and our families were really close, and they're very close. And Jim is a lifelong friend. That's how I feel. He's one of the few guys I've ever known that I can call after not having talked to for a long time. It's just like I talked to him yesterday. And Jim, you're a wonderful combination of sort of authentic soul and like very little BS. And I love that. I love that about you. And, yeah, that's what I had to say about Jim.
Yeah.
I feel compelled to say something, even though I'm shy and a crybaby. But Jim knows me and Jessica know me since I was 18 months.
Yep.
I've never, you know, not really known you. Been really lucky to. And you brought in my best friend in the world, and I'm so grateful for you for that. And Jessica also, one of my sibling for life. And recently I got to spend a lot of time at the Stone House in your writing shed, and I got to make a lot of work in there, and you opened that up for me, and it was one of the most special times of my life. And I felt really close to you and Jess and Lindsay and everyone, so just want to thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Donnie's
a wonderful artist.
I don't know, I'm very shy, so I don't know if I can do this, but I'll give it a try.
We believe in you.
Jim introduced me to poetry after a 50-year hiatus, 10 years ago maybe. And I had done poetry in my teens, and my parents were, my father was in the Second World War, and but they had all kinds of issues because of being in that situation, and a lot of alcohol problems and so on. So I had written some poems as a teenager. I'm about to turn 77, so you know. But I had not written any poems for 50 years, and then I got connected with Jim in the men's group, and Jim introduced me to his poetry thing, and it was great. And so we started out with not rhyming poetry, and I really liked it, enjoyed it, and then a high school friend of mine, I did a lot of sailing, and a high school friend of mine told me that maybe I should try rhyming poetry, so I did try rhyming poetry. And, but, you know, it was so good for me, you know. And just listening to all the poetry tonight, whether it's rhyming or not rhyming, doesn't matter. For me, non-rhyming poetry is speaking from the heart. And rhyming poetry is singing from the heart. So it doesn't matter. I mean, you can sing from the heart, you can speak from the heart, it doesn't matter. Okay. And so I spent a lot of time just appreciating this beautiful planet we live on, traveling through absolute zero space at 67,000 miles an hour.
Wow.
And it's just this beautiful place that we're on. And, you know, so, I mean, I wrote a poem about how thankful I am to be here, okay, to be on this planet. And I'll read it for you if you don't mind.
Sure.
It's called A Prayer for Gaia. Now, Gaia is the oldest description of Mother Earth. 5,000 years ago in Greece, they came up with the term Gaia, and that was the oldest description of Mother Earth. Okay, so thank you so much, Gaia, for all you've done for me, for all you've given me, and for all you've let me see. From my very first look upon your world, beginning with my startled cry, you've never ceased to amaze me and would do so until I die. With all your incredible beauty, both animal and plant, I feel it's my duty to praise you until I'm gone and can't. Your greens and blues and rainbow colors bring peace into my heart. Our world is just your canvas, and all the colors are your art. All the things I'm thankful for, you're highest on my list. You've made it possible for love to be. Without you, who would ever have been kissed? Who would have loved? Who would have hugged? Who would have thanked their lucky stars for all their friends and family and be thankful they are ours? So when I go to sleep tonight, I will say a heartfelt prayer that everyone treat you with deep regard, with much love, respect, and care.
Yeah.
You don't seem so shy.
Yeah.
I would like to say a few words about Jim myself. I'm honored to be his friend, and I am deeply, deeply happy that this sharing is happening for all of us. And now, I just wrote a poem in my head.
Go for it.
And I want applause for it being the shortest poem of the night. Because here it goes. His name is Jim. We all love him.
On my grandmother's mother-in-law's 95th birthday, we had all our children and grandchildren around, and they each said something beautiful about her. And she died 4 days later, a content woman. And she had a living memorial service. Why should we wait until we die for our memorial service? I liked, well, everything John said about Jim, but you know, there is a little bit of the Buddha in you, Jim, and there's a peacefulness in you, Jim.
Sometimes
you bring. When I've been with you, you bring peace. And, you know, we can all bring peace. You know, I have found in my own life that whatever energy shows up in my life, I can transform that energy. I can transform it into whatever I want. So, you know, if people used to push my buttons, people don't push my buttons anymore. I just take that energy and make it something else. That's all. And that's easy. That creates, if we can all create peace in that way, and you do that. You do that. And so I too realize that you and Jessica created the sacred here tonight. And there's something about poetry that invites love in, invites the sacred. I mean, we could all be home watching Netflix, whatever, but it wouldn't be the same thing, would it? It would be a different thing. And so I'm grateful to be a part of this evening. So thank you, Jim.
Okay.
Renard, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Okay, so I've known Jim and Jessica and the whole family for many, many years. And, you know, sometimes when somebody says I'm a child of poetry, they're probably speaking poetic, right? But I am an actual child of poetry. In 1949, my parents met when my father picked up my mother hitchhiking on the way to a little lake. And they started talking, and my mother mentioned that sometimes she performed at a little hotel by the lake at what we would call an open mic night. And my father said, I write poems, and I always wanted to hear it out loud. Would you do it? And my mother said, I don't know, let me see it. Well, he showed it to her. She did it. It must have went well because I was born a year later.
It was a year, Renard.
So the poem was called The Bus. And when my father lived in the Bronx, and every day he had to take a hot, crowded city bus to Manhattan, where he went to was probably a trade school. And so he wrote this poem, and this is the one my mother read, and I liked it. And I just want to say my father had a lot of what we call in the tribe chutzpah, because he sent out his poems to Walter Winchell. Those of you know Walter Winchell, top radio personality, and to the New Yorker magazine. And he would write these little things on so this is what he opened the poem with. He said, gentlemen, these hot summer days just ooze this ode out of me. Wipe your brow and read on. So he says this to the New Yorker. All right, so the bus. Hark! I spied an empty seat as I was pushed in from the street. The crowd was thick. I gasped for air. And still, I noticed no one there. I pushed and squirmed and turned, for this was the day I always yearned, at last a seat. After all these years, the thought was enough to give me tears. Excuse me, lady, I did not see. Pardon me, mister, was that your knee? These apologies I had to make, for I fought for the seat I was to take. Almost there now, but not quite. A little more and I'll have won my fight. But wait, a depressing sound I hear. The conductor saying, please step to the rear. Oh no, it can't be. But yes, it's true. I'm losing ground. What shall I do? I'm being taken to the back by the never-ending the sardine pack. I've grown weak from all this strain. Body and soul, I'm racked with pain. And still I spy that vacant seat, the crowd around upon their feet. The sight impressed me as being odd, or maybe it is the will of God, that I should be there in that space for the sufferings endured by the human race. I may be wrong, it may be so, but now again I'm on the go. I straightened up with body tense. A last-minute prayer I now commence. I fought and pushed and fought, Now I'm near what I always sought. I thrust my body for the advance. Now on that seat I have my pants. A triumph great I have achieved. The pain I bore is now relieved. But wait, the bus has stopped, I see. The crowd is leaving. What can it be? I looked at the driver. He looked at me. Last stop I heard, regrettably. With weakened knees, I rose to my feet and started slowly towards the street. Descending from that vehicle, body cold as an icicle, I resolved this as the street I hit. Never again shall I attempt to sit.
Your mother read that?
My mother read that to the at this little hotel, and that was the beginning, and that's me. I'm here. So here, there's a cool addendum to this. My father's been gone for about 7 years. My mother's 96 now. She's doing great. She's doing well. I go visit every couple of weeks. She lives on Long Island in New York. And you know, at a certain time, you start clearing out the closets and the drawers. And so I was doing that, and I came upon a leather-bound portfolio.
Oh my God.
I opened it up, and there were my father's original poems from 1949. The bus was in there, okay? I brought the portfolio.
That is a super clever poem.
My father, some of you have met my father, you know, there's a lot of stuff. So anyway, I brought this portfolio down to show my mother. And she opens it up and she says, "He never showed me this." And she starts reading. And I sat there for about an hour and a half while she read every word. And some of the poems she read twice. And I'm thinking, here it is, 77 years later, and these poems are still speaking to her as if, and this was something new. She'd not seen so, and there was one called Felice. My mother's name's Felice. And I thought, poetry, what a powerful medium. So, thank you. There we are. All right. So, taking on his inspiration, I am a songwriter. And
Have a seat, Jess.
Yeah, Jess, this is for you. I'm a songwriter and a poet. So, Jim asked me to do one of my songs for Jessica's birthday, which is when?
Oh yeah, February 22nd.
All right.
How old are you now, Jeff?
40.
I know you're funny. So there's an interesting story of how this song got written. We were doing an environmental concert. Some of you may remember the Tannersville Inn. And one attention please. That's my wife. We were doing this concert, and one of the other presenters was a psychic reader. And after the show, we were invited, all of us, to have dinner, okay? And I was sitting exactly across from the psychic reader, and everybody's talking. All of a sudden, he goes like this. He beckons me to come so I can hear what he's saying. He says, "They want you to write a song called Beyond My Steps." I knew immediately what it was about. I went home that night and wrote it, and here it is. Jim wanted me to do it for you. Little feet, little hands, all our future, all our plans, and take me out beyond my steps and let my heart go on. Little eyes, little smile, hold me close for just a little while. Take us out beyond our steps and let my heart go on. Take me out and onward. Between you I'll never die. We'll find the peace of ages together, you and I. Little song, little sigh. Go to sleep now, close your eyes and dream us out beyond our steps and let my heart go on. Take me out and onward. Deep in you I'll never die. We'll find the peace of ages together, you and I. Little song, little sigh. Go to sleep now, close your eyes and dream us out beyond our steps and let my heart go on. Take me out beyond the steps and let my heart go Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you, Renard. And Colin and Jim. Nice try making it about my birthday, but anyways. A valiant attempt.
Oh, this is a poem by 8th century Chinese poet called Duko. Okay. I come back each day and pawn some spring clothing. Every day I return to the river as drunk as I can be. I have debts for liquor at everywhere, but who cares? For men to live to 70 has always been rare. I see the butterflies go deeper and deeper into the flowers, and dragonflies in leisurely flying, skipping the surface of the water. Let me tell you, passing time is always on the move. So little time to know each other, we should not be apart.
All right, Tufu.
So I started at Daisy and I started working with Jim and his group. I paid you at the time too, and I would not speak a word. I'm a pretty confident therapist, but not in poetry. Like, I never wrote before. So Jim would just, kind of give me like, just read something. And then there's days that my brain just doesn't work at all. Blame the trauma, whatever. So one day I just didn't understand the poem. He says, feel it. And I'm like, I don't feel this poem, Jim. So I don't remember what poem it was, but that's how my poem went that night. Jim says, write a poem. He says it with confidence, as if I know what I'm doing. When the poem we read doesn't speak to me, Jim, what line catches your eye? Me? I don't know, Jim. What line catches your eye? Jim, just pick a line and write. But the poem wants to flower, like a flower catches my eye. Probably not what Jim is talking about, but I will try. Flowers are quite beautiful. Just don't let me touch them, or they will die. Sunflowers are my favorite flower. Maybe I will like them the most because they are strong and have to create deep roots in the soil to survive. I enjoy seeing them bloom. Most of all, I love how they follow the sun throughout the day.
I wrote a song 2 years ago on my 75th birthday. And the name of the poem is 75 and Still Alive. Okay. So I'll read that for you. Why is it fate you test us so as we pass our 75? Let's be glad to be alive. With family and friends are afterglow. Glowing in spirit and happiness, with love is the truth with which we're blessed. Seeing future days as bright rainbows, our antidote to worries and woes. As we start our fourth quarter in life's game, and we wonder where our lives will lead, let's be thankful that we're now free to wander Gaia at slow speed. And when we think back on the life that is ours, and we remember all the dreams that we had, then we remember all the visits to distant shores, making memories as happy nomads. We've traveled in the company of family and friends, our smiling alchemists who can turn lead to gold, with their laughter and happiness and loving support, as together we walk the path of getting old. So life's truth is it's a wonderful journey, a group event with family and friends, and we should be so very thankful when, like a child at a theme park, we ask Gaia, please, please, can we do it again?
Yeah. All right.
I have a poem.
Okay, great.
I have a spontaneous poem that will break Charlie's record. It's the shortest poem of the evening.
I like that.
Only a few people in this room will understand the meaning of this poem. Ready? Gil.
Gil.
I remember when I was a teenager, my dad always used to ask me, "What do you think, Jess?" And I would say, "About what?" And he would say, "About life." And it used to drive me crazy because I never had an answer, but I think I found one. For my father. Every day of my life. Eyes first opening, mouth full of breath. You were there every day of my life. Lifted and carried, held near sleeping, read to, head heavy, on the smooth pillow, every day of my life. Weaving me into a world so much larger, hands grasped on the wooden trail, wading into unknown waters, steadying every step, beside me always, every day of my life. Drawing beside me in bright colors, reading bright poems, pointing to the brightly colored birds. Look up, you would say, at the blue, blue sky. Look for deer and foxes in the field. The light the leaves make on the creek, every day of my life. Every round, rolling tear dropped on your shoulder, every broken, beloved thing mended or mourned. Small things that grow along with us, every day of my life. Your arms around me, around my sister, your daughters, cheers and laughter, joy and mischief, playing tag until you could not catch us. Every day of our lives. A home set in stone, a poem set in stone, a path set in stone. You show me how to walk it, to tread lightly, listen to the sound of the quiet voice inside yourself, the words of others and those they try to say. Listen deep into the past, listen wide for the wisdom that is everywhere around us. Every day of my life. You made it, you show me. The last page is missing.
It's a Zen poem.
Is it somewhere?
It is somewhere. I will find it. Wow. Cutting me off. I blame your printer.
Well played.
I'm blushing.
So far, so good.
I could go wrong.
This is why you get nervous reading poems.
Yeah, that's okay.
You got it.
The quiet voice inside yourself, the words of others, and those they try to say. Listen deep into the past. Listen wide for the wisdom that is everywhere around us. Every day of my life. You made it. You show me how to make it, how to stay whole in it. Every day of my life, you ask me what I think about life. And all I can say is thank you, thank you, thank you.
Hey, thanks everybody. It's been amazing beyond whatever I could imagine.
You gotta drive.
Oh, I can tell.
So I want to close.
Yeah, it passes. It's like 7:30.
No.
That's pushing it.
We good? I feel your pain. I've used this slide quite a few times in workshops, but two things. A poet by the name of William Stafford, who was in his 70s, I think, at this point. Highly regarded poet, wonderful person, was asked, when did you become a poet? And Stafford replied, that's the wrong question. The right question is, when did you stop being a poet? Because we're all born poets, we're all born with this creative instinct, this impulse, this the connection to celebrate and revere this life. And I hope you give it a try. Don't forget that, everybody's got it, it's a spark.
Yeah.
And this hung over my parents' fireplace in Lake Champlain for many years. Robert Browning, maybe, I can't remember. But my, oh shit. My
that portion of the evening.
My favorite, my aunt did this beautiful counted cross dish in 1947, and it goes like this.
That way.
From quiet homes and first beginnings, out to the undiscovered ends.
Oh.
There's nothing worth the wear of winning but laughter and the love of friends.
Yeah. Hear, hear.
All right, like when you're 5, ladies and gentlemen.
I don't believe there is anything but beginning. Oh, I don't believe there's anything but beginning. That's a line from a poem I wrote.
By Jim Elsaesser.
But yeah, didn't quite hear
Happy birthday
I don't.
to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jim. Happy birthday to you.
And many more.
Thank you.
Written on this poem.
Here we go. Yeah. All right.
Jesse's cake, she made that.